All right, I'm back. Let's get it. I'm gonna be looking at how accurate my PRs were. We are 6 weeks into the season, and not a single Game 7 match has been played yet. Uh, there's one Game 6 match that hasn't been put in yet because it was late and it was one of mine. My bad. So I've done that myself in terms of rating, and ARG's still in 14, and MKW has moved up to fifth after that game goes in. And other than that, everything as you see it is accurate. So uh, let's take a look, and I will be figuring out how accurate I was based off of the total number of like indices of difference, right? So if I put a team in like fifth and they ended up in eighth, they would have three indices of difference. I'm going to sum those up across all 14 ratings and see how accurate we were. Our baselines are 63 indices is if I rated everything at 7.5 right in the middle, and 65 is what Google AI tells me um, we could expect if I randomly um, rated everything 1 through 14. So those are our benchmarks to try to beat. Obviously, it's not like we can still try to beat that. This is our challenge from 6 weeks ago, and let's see if we win, or maybe how likely we are to win by the end of the season. So 16th, I was super accurate here. 10 Bruxuses is a terrible build. Fuck this. 0 and 9 is my prediction down here. Oh yeah, so this is a team name. This is where they're currently at in terms of right record, game differential, and KD. How their rating has changed from where I predicted to where they are, and what I predict their final record to be, as well as how likely I think they are to make playoffs. So Bruxish is giving us a bit of a min max on that, completely on the min side, no max. Greg Heffley did pick up an early win to the Bruxish squad, but ever since Greg's tragic injury in week 6, we've seen Brick come in, and Brick just doesn't have the same amount of gusto. I hesitate calling this one win even real anymore because the roster is just so different. So I'm keeping them in 15th. Now, now we're on to the real teams. So this is these are the Arcane Guardians. No transactions. Only 3 teams had any transactions. Um, and this was not one of them. So let's take a little look here. Uh, what made me put them in 11th is their greatest strength. I thought was how nicely everything was typed. How nice it was that everything had a second type. And what I'm realizing is this team does kind of have a couple of pieces that are coming all the time, right? Pelipper and Ludicolo. So the other 4, I think, have to rotate nicely to precisely uh, get the better of whatever the matchup is that week. Ludicolo is always coming for fake out pressure, and that swift swim is super nice. Pelipper is always coming because the team isn't that great outside of rain. So we see that Ludicolo and Pelipper have been coming the most, which is great. Not all the time though, which is interesting. Um, I'm sure that hasn't worked because this team is so rain reliant. So let's let's look at what else has been coming. We've seen the next most is Gyarados, which has just not been doing very well. Um, and then Lantern has been coming the next most after that, and Lantern's just pretty terrible compared to a lot of these guys. I think not seeing more Poliwrath, Azumarill, Crawdaunt is really debilitating to this team's damage output. Not seeing more Toxapex, not seeing more Tentacruel, not seeing more Gastrodon is really detrimental to the team's longevity and utility. So I think there's a lot of learning how to use these pieces that needs to be done in order to bring out the team's potential. Because I could have seen this going higher than 11, honestly. But I think there's yeah, so I think there's a lot of potential here. I just don't think it's being utilized fully, but I do think it's still a solid roster. Especially, yeah, if the right pieces around Pelipper and Ludi come each week, right? Against me, Fairy Team, I only saw Toxapex, no Tentacruel. I think Tentacruel probably would have been a good bring. Maybe that would have been a time to bring a cool offensive set, especially considering my speed tier are so low. I don't think I have anything over 100. So aside from Mega Diancie, which I'm not bringing into water. So I think like Specs Sludge Wave that week would have been cool, or Sludge Bomb maybe. So I don't know, just stuff to consider is using your vast array of types in a better way. Less Lantern reliance, less Mega Gyarados reliance, more these guys sort of thing. Um, in the in the last 3 weeks, we've got a battle against the 6-0 ground type team, which type wise looks good, but ground's been on such a tear. I think that one might be out of the question. But then we've got the 3-3 psychic team and the 2-4 electric team. So if this team can find a way to take down terrain in either of those weeks, it's possible we could see a big dub here for the Arcane Guardians, and I hope to see it. I think it's possible, and I'm rooting for them. So they brought T spikes against me, which I thought was really cool. So clearly they are open to trying some heat tech, and no, I'm giving them a win here out of solidarity. I do think they're mathematically eliminated from playoffs, which is top 8. Um, but let's see them get that dub. 13th, we've got the Great Lakes Galvantulas, which I had at 8th. They are 1-5 at 6 games behind even and a minus 24 KD. So what's been happening? What's been happening is uh, a fuck ton of Volby and Shuckle. Volby, I totally get. Shuckle one has to ask, is this just a season where the goal is to use Shuckle? And if that's the case, man, I get it. That's why it's limited. If the goal is to take some dubs, the first piece of advice is to move off Shuckle. But it's funny as hell, so I get it. Um, Aside from it just being Shuckle, I do recognize it has cool tech, but the reason that it's not um cohesive here is I was talking about when I was rating them how we've got several tailwinders here, and Shuckle works opposite to Tailwind, right? Like it just can't take it, maybe not opposite, but it can't take advantage of Tailwind at all. It's not outspeeding anything in Tailwind, aside from maybe like Trap Inch, right? So that's just a real rough lack of synergy between the clear star of the team and its supporting cast of OU Mons. So that's rough. And man, I can't read my notes at all. My bad there. I kind of stalled out because I couldn't read my own notes. But what I believe they say is that you have so much utility across all of these guys, right? You gotta figure out how to mix that utility into your offensive mons. Um, so Volcarona can do hella damage while packing Rage Powder. Uh, Gal can do hella damage while packing webs, so that way you don't have to bring Araquanid when it's not convenient. Araquanid can do hella damage with, its attacks. These guys have a lot of mixed utility and damage sets. I feel like even though Volbeat is clearly your best supporter, if there are times when it's not right to use Volbeat, like you can offload some of that stuff. Like have one of these guys run Tailwind, Um, I fuck with full beat so hard, but at a certain point, if you're bringing Shuckle, if the goal is to bring Shuckle every week, um, you're gonna have to do more damage than bringing both of these guys can offer. Now, if the goal is to bring both of these guys to every battle, um, I'm impressed you picked up a win. So no matter what, I can tell you're doing a bit of a challenge run here, and hell yeah. Uh, in our back 3 weeks, we've got a match against the 2 and 4 Electric roster, the 4 and 2 Dark roster, and the 4 and 2 Dragon roster. I do think that against maybe you can take advantage of your typing against Dark. Maybe you can take advantage of anything happening with Electric. I don't know. Um, I think that it's not implausible though to pick up a dub in the last 3 weeks, especially maybe not against the Dragon team, but against week 7 or 8. I could see it happening. So I'm putting this team at 2 and 7. If everything goes right and they pull up with 4 and 5, they could get in. I don't think it's possible or probable. I'm putting it at 1%. Technically, not mathematically out of it, but as close as you can get. Maybe they are, honestly. I'm not running the calcs, but that's just where I'm putting it. So here's 12. The Richland Raichus. This was their original roster. Original coach dropped off after, I believe, 2 weeks. They went 0 and 2, and it's raining. It's raining a shit ton right now. My bad if you can hear it. But after Basher took over and rebranded to the Cyberpunk Coils, we went 2 and 2. And so we're on an upwards trajectory, but still for now we are at 12th place. So my sixth place rating has dropped down to 12. And I do think this rebuild is a lot more potent than this. This is a pure can you survive this many electric attacks kind of check plus Iron Valiant. This one is so much more versatile. First of all, we have physical attackers now, which is awesome. We've got Zero Aura, we've got Arctazult, and Arctazult, and Pinch Urchin is actually doing some pretty good damage. And Graveler, if you ever want to bring it, take advantage of somebody else's Trick Room, explode, hit some EQs, whatever, um, hit some double edges. Yeah, go crazy. The other thing, the more important thing, is that we are running an ice mode, a snow mode, which is great, right? Bolt beam is kind of the classic combo of able to hit everything for neutral plus. So having these guaranteed blizzards for Rotom Frost and the snow, having Veil for these guys to give longevity to like Zapdos and Pincurchin or whatever, giving Arctazult the free reign to run Bulk Beat. It's all very very nicely done. And Cyberpunk Coils, it's going to be CPC. We can see here that Arctazult and Aurus have 14 and 15 kills, respectively, putting them both in the top 10. And after the rebuild, they've only had 4 weeks. They've had 2/3 the amount of time to get those kills, which means band for band, right? Or week for week, these guys are probably 1 and 2, right? They've been on the roster for 2/3 the amount of time. So if we three halves this, it's not a perfect calculation because more volume means more volatility, or it normalizes a little bit more. Less volatility. Damn, it normalizes a little bit more, but still really impressive stuff from Arctazult and Aurorus, and the whole rebuild feels really good. I would like to see more Zeraora probably, um, but you know what? It's all good. If Zolt and Aurorus are gonna carry you, let them carry you. Go crazy. So yeah, I think Electric's on an upwards trajectory, and you might be looking at the 60% here and thinking no shot, right? And they're really gonna win their back 3 games. Let me tell you what these back three games are. They're up against the 1-5 bug type team. They're up against the 3-3 steel type team, and they're up against the 0-6 water type team. I think steel is going to be maybe a 50-50 matchup. But Electric does have the slight type advantage there, right, from Stab, and this roster is so great after the rebuild, right? If you think about this as more of a 3-3 team than a 2-4 team, I think they are pretty middle of the pack right now, trending up. Um, and I think that the coach is only going to get more comfortable as they go. One could argue that Steel kind of takes the ice attacks options away, but I think you still might be able to brute force that matchup. In fact, you probably can with like some Mega Magnetic overheat type stuff, some EQs, Zero Aura's fighting coverage. I still think it's a good matchup for them. And while it's definitely a 5-4 leaning 4-5 final result that I'm expecting, I give them a 60% chance to be in the playoffs. So really impressive rebuild, and I'm excited to see them keep climbing. All right, now right after I uploaded my PRs, after I stuck by a lot of my takes and agreed that we could see teams in different ways, but they were my takes. The two that I was most ready to switch up on though were that ground should have been way higher and grass should have been way lower. And both of those switch ups were vindicated. I'm not just saying that because they were proven right. I'm saying it because those are messages that I sent. And what I didn't realize about grass was that these two, and I should have realized this, right? But these two were not able to. Voice is cracking a lot today because I'm sick. By the way, it does crack normally as well, but it's even worse today. So, yeah, these two cannot come at the same time. Brutal. These are kind of two of the best mons, and now it's like, what are we? Is this really worth the budget? So super tough. It makes me want Chandelier as a Terra Captain even more, and then you move off Heartflame, you move off Lichen Dusk, and you get another good piece. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot tougher of a roster than I thought, especially because they do not seem to be using the component that I thought was most valuable, which is their status. The team's Denver Milotics, by the way. Sorry for not throwing out the name there, but yeah, definitely not using the status as I thought they would, which is what made me put them so high. So we can see here the pieces that are coming a lot are Bulu, which makes sense for terrain. I don't think you always need that terrain, especially in matchups where grass isn't doing a lot of damage because you remove your ability to hit like, can anything even do an EQ? Oh, maybe never mind. But no, I'm not always sure that grassy terrain is necessary. It might be giving your opponents healing you don't want them to have if your goal is to status them. But we also see hella minutes from Lurantis. Lurantis has come to the third most games, very clear separation from fourth most games, and is at 1-9. Lurantis is like not good, right? It's only at 7 because it can snowball, but not because it's supposed to snowball. This is supposed to be a flex option, not a main option. And I think this over reliance on Lurantis is preventing some really good pieces from shining. I think Breloom and Decidueye, despite their bigger flying weaknesses, are really good sources of both utility and damage, right? Triple Arrows is disgusting. You've got Mach Punch over here. You've got Rock Tomb for speed. Um, you've got Spore. I think those are both really good. The Hearth Flames, I guess, combine, right, for 12 total games brought. Um, I don't think it's encouraging that Cornerstone is coming more than Hearthflame. I think Hearthflame is a lot better, and you don't have a different grass fire type, whereas you do have Cradily, who's clearly already doing all the work expected of a grass rock type. So, yeah, I think the team still has a lot of good parts, even after the double Ogre Pond, effective nerf in my head. But Yeah, I'm not sure that they're being used most effectively. And I understand why you would bring Lurantis on a roster that otherwise doesn't have a lot of special attack, but bring Mega Sceptile more. If any of these other guys has access to any electric type move, maybe see if you can self-trigger Lightning Rod. I don't know, that might be an idea. Maybe you've already thought of this. Maybe nobody gets any electric move, which is super possible. Nothing's jumping out at me, but you know, uh, I would say worth a shot. Maybe something gets like T-Punch or something. It's rough going for Denver Milotics so far, but they do have 2 wins, right? This isn't one win. I feel like 2-4 is um definitely means that there's some potential here. The other problem is the back bit of their schedule is really, really rough. They are going up against the 2-4 ice type team. They are going up against the dragon type team, which is doing very well, and they are going up against the fire team, which is breaking even. And dragon is at a glance the most doable type matchup for grass versus ice and fire, who have weather conditions specifically designed to fuck up grass types. But dragon is doing the best out of those three, so it's really tough. You're gonna have to rely on your strong rock types here, and Breloom's Mach Punch and Deciduous damage against ice and maybe fire to scrounge 1 maybe 2 wins out of there and see if you can get in that way. If you can take out both ice and fire by taking advantage of, I don't know, Cornerstone and some of Cell Rock type stuff, then you'll be at 4-5. And if you can, put up a game versus Dragon, you might be able to be 4-5 with +1 diff. And since we're taking 8 teams out of 14, you might be able to slide into playoffs. 15% might seem high, but I do think that a really strong Lycanroc performance might be able to put this team over the edge. So, and maybe if the status is used more, it might catch some teams unaware. I don't know. I'd like to see this team do well. So, um, sending out love and hope to the Denver Milotics right now, because they have a really, really tough back third of the season. And I think getting even 1 win here is already going to be a strong turnaround performance. So, shout out, I guess. This is my most accurate rating so far by default because I got 10 right on the nose. Granted, only one of the teams that I thought would be below this actually stayed below this. The other three kind of moved up and 3 more moved down, but I did expect this to be bottom mid, and it is right now. 2-4, 2 games below even, and -13 KD. So not not too far removed from average or from playoffs, but definitely some work to do in the last 3 weeks. So what's been happening with the ice type team? This is the Jobless Beedrill, my favorite team name in the league. Well, we are seeing a lot of Articuno, and I think Articuno, it's good. It's worth 11. It's super bulky with the buff to the snow weather condition, but I don't think it merits seeing this much playtime over other pieces. I think a lot of this team is geared towards doing a lot of damage, but we're focused on bringing pieces for survivability when they're not needed. Like after Articuno and the other big two, these two I totally support getting this much playtime. After Articuno, though, Dugong and Avalugg. I guess I get Avalugg right. Sturdy's helpful. It does damage. Big physical wall, but Dugong. I mean, Dugong's shit, right? Um, I feel like there's no reason to that it should be seen more than double the amount of Titan playtime, of Kieran Black playtime. And Pori Z, I think, is being underused too, right? These attacks are going to be super, super strong off adaptability, and you can scarf it, you can TP out, which this team doesn't have a lot of pivot, so it's super valuable. I definitely, I definitely think that there can be some playtime adjustments to give this team a big boost right off the rip, but is it too late? We've got in the back 3 weeks, um, a match against grass, which obviously this is going to be the favorite for, if it can avoid the strong rock type attacks like we were talking about. But then it's up against the fire type roster, which is doing pretty well, and then my fairy type roster, which is 4-2 right now, trending upwards. So it's rough. I expect it to go 3-6, but I think picking up more than one win out of those three matchups is going to be rough. And even if it does, I don't think it can be dominant enough to put it above other 4 and 5 teams. So if everything goes right, maybe 5% chance for playoffs here for everything to go right. But I don't think it's happening, unfortunately. But I would be excited to see if it can take down Fire or Fairy and hold its own against Grass. I think that'd be a nice sight to see, and I hope Kirim, Porizi, and Satitan might see some more play. Um, Fuck with Frost last heavy, good shit. So then, taking us to ninth right now. Let's see. It is, if playoffs were run today, this would be the last team that didn't, or the best team that didn't make the cut. So most approved maybe. Clockwork Angels, who I had in my top three. In fact, I said my top three teams I thought were a cut above the other 11. And so I am surprised to see it down here. The tools are explosive, right? So much offense. We've got Shadow Tag. We've got Shadow Tag again. We've been seeing a lot of gravity on Gothitelle for Dark Void, and then for inaccurate moves on Mew like Heatwave and Draco Meteor. And it's hard to estimate why this team is not working. Maybe estimate's not the right word. Guess, right? This playtime doesn't seem ridiculous. This is a top-heavy team, and Indeedee is coming. It's just not logging in here. Maybe Mail is coming. I'm not sure. I think the biggest reason is that we are not seeing a lot of set diversity. Psychic has so many options available from like Trick and Skill Swap and Trick Room, and a lot of these guys have good like Toxic or T-Wave options. I feel like their screens even. I think we have been seeing support on Gothitelle. It's a pretty consistent Gravity, Heal Pulse, Protect, Helping Hand set every week. I'd love to see Screamtail come more and maybe phase out an offensive piece or two some weeks, because chances are if you know 4 offensive psychic types aren't breaking through, the fifth one isn't going to help. But a second support piece might be all the difference, and maybe switching up the Gothitelle set might be good. The other thing is we've not seen a lot of support from you, or even diversity from you. We've just been seeing strong special attacker most weeks. I think this roster has so much more to offer than what we've been seeing, and I think this could absolutely put on one hell of a performance in the last 3 weeks in order to pull through. So, um, 3-3 right now, even on KD, -3 games is not super optimal. It means that going 4-5 is not going to be helpful. You're going to have to get up to 5-4, because um, this game diff is not going to help you out in the 4 and 5 tiebreakers. So I do think though this team is going to be able to get up to 5-4, and I put them at 50% on making playoffs, maybe a little higher. Their back 3 weeks are against the Steel type team, against the 0-6 Water team, and against the 4-2 Fighting team. So Steel, honestly, not out of the question. You have some tools to get by Steel types. Iron Boulder can EQ. You can put him to sleep with Darkrai, right? Like, and then Mew has insane coverage. So not impossible, but I do think that's the least likely one to fall. Fighting is really good. Fighting has been taking down a lot of bad matchups, but this is one hell of a matchup to take down, and I think Psychic could pick up an unexpected dub there to slip into playoffs at 5-4. So that is my prediction for Clockwork Angels. I think they might have that dog in them, and I still love this roster despite being in ninth right now. So let's see again. In eighth, we have the team I expected to be in last, Milk's Monster Team, second favorite team name in the league, and I'm glad they're doing well because as much as I can't play them and as much as I rate them low, um, pure power teams are really fun to watch. And Lilligant Hisui has been putting on one hell of a show. I forget if Lilligant is in the top 12. It is not, but not for a lack of trying because Lilligant is doing crazy damage output for this team that is already reliant on damage output. It's been scrounging up KOs left and right, chip ones, finishing blows. It's just being that fast on top of the chlorophyll double boost is really dangerous. Now, um, super huge shout out to this team for being a good sport about being last in PRs and then shutting me up with a 3-3. But I do think that we still, I do still think that this team has some proving to do. Um, that sounds shitty to say, but I think that it did a great job winning the weather war against water. That was really impressive. But the other dub came against the steel team, which is just so favored for fire, especially with the rosters that they have. And then the other one was a forfeit win against Fighting, who I think otherwise stood a really good chance at bringing this roster down to 2-4. So while I totally appreciate what this fire team has been able to do in proving itself and shutting me up again and putting it in last place, I think it no longer deserves to be in last place. I totally see what's going on here. I think that we need to see some more like Magmar minutes maybe, um, and be less reliant on pure damage output still for it to get into playoffs. So the play style we've seen from it um, has convinced me that it's not a last place team, but it hasn't convinced me it's a playoff team. And I know I'm not, it's not like I'm that good at Pokemon or anything, but um, yeah, like, you know, who's this fucking guy to say anything? But just not sure on it. That said, it's got some decent matchups here. So it's going up against a 4-2 normal type team, which I do expect the normal type team to win. But then it's going up against the 2-4 ice type team and the 2-4 grass type team. So um, this team, I think, could be able to slip into playoffs. You know, immediately doubling back on what I said about this not being a playoff team. And what I mean by that is even if it slips into playoffs with these favorable matchups, I'm not sure it'll do well unless we start seeing some play style changes in the next couple weeks. And I think more Scovillain could be cool too. Being that fast, we've already seen Lilligan. He's been able to pick up a bunch of KOs despite not being the strongest, you know, offensive threat on the roster. Maybe Scovillain can do a shit ton of work despite being a little bit underwhelming at a glance as well. And Magmar's Follow Me, I think, is going to be really helpful too. So I think um, this team could definitely make semis at this rate, but and I think it will make playoffs. I think I have it at 70%. Yeah, it might be higher, honestly. Those grass and ice matchups are really, really favorable. But yeah, I think there's still some work to be done on the play style and usage if it's gonna make it past the first round of playoffs. But yeah, once again, super shout out for jumping up six ratings. Uh, very nicely done. So another one of my top three, fallen down not as far to seventh right now. The Ironclad Spinners, and this team's doing well, right? It's 3-3 now. We are truly in the middle of the pack, fighting hard and fighting well for playoffs. First team with positive set differential and a positive KD aside from this electric type team that's going crazy down there. And the reason I loved this was um, how like the water type team, how great the secondary types were and how defensively powerful it was. But it seems that I have underestimated every other team's ability to break through. So what's been going on here? Well, we are seeing a lot of we're seeing a lot of offensive stuff. I think that I think that maybe we're playing a little bit too fast for what this team is built for. Um, I think perhaps slowing it down might make the team a little bit stronger. I think it might be worth trying out more trick room options with Capraja and like a slow Aegis Slash maybe, slow Empoleon, slower Heatran, because a lot of teams are going to be trying to outspeed your Scarf Genesect, your Scarf Heatran, your Band Kartana. You can use that against them. I do respect Skarmory coming as much as it does for the Tailwind, but also Skarmory is kind of dog, and the fact that it's coming this much over, um, no Togedemaru, I think is rough. I think Togedemaru, if you're going to play this team offensively like it's being played right now, I think bringing a fake out option is going to be huge for positioning and making sure that if you're not bringing bulk on these guys, they still have a little bit more longevity. Um, I think Togedemaru's being underused. Skarm might be being overused. But overall, still really frightening. I lost to this team. There's a type advantage, but also it was played really, really well. And it's been being played really, really well. It's just having more flexibility in how it's played, I think, might let it ascend back into that top three where I expected it to be. That said, the back half is really tough. We're going up against that psychic type team, which does have an opportunity to upset based off of how strong that roster is. You're going up against the electric type team, which has a bit of a type advantage. Um, and then you're going up against the dark type team, which is proven to be very threatening. So, yeah, a lot of tough rosters to chunk through right now. And I think this team could be up for it, but um, yeah, it's just seeing if we can get a little bit more versatility on the play style, maybe. Um, Overall, though, still doing well. I think 40% might be low for those playoff odds because even if it's 4 and 5, it will probably be on the higher end of 4 and 5 teams. It's just those last three matches are against really tough matchups slash teams. So we'll see. Hopefully they do well. In sixth, uh, we're getting on to really potent semifinal threats. So we've got the Indianapolis Coalossals. You'll see they say fifth right now, but after the week 6 match goes in here, I'll move one above them. So I expected this team to be in ninth. They are in sixth right now. Um, I also said this was, I think, the most what I thought was the most volatile team to either do way worse than I had them or way better than I had them, and they have been one of my more accurate picks so far. So I think that's kind of funny, but they have moved from where I expected them to be, which is just outside of playoffs, into um, a a pretty likely contender. So this is one of the 3 teams that did a trade, and they only moved one piece, which was Mega Lop for Mega Kangaskhan, and I think this is a phenomenal trade. We haven't been able to see it much because it took place pretty recently, but I do think this is a lot better. I was talking a lot about how I thought that the team kind of lacked super scary pieces, and a lot of that is that Megalopony could be taken out so quickly, and then there wasn't a lot else to do damage aside from Ursa. But Mega Kangaskhan has the staying power and damage that you need. And then Gigas has been going off. Yeah, it's in fifth right now with 16 kills, plus 10 KD. So the team's been doing well. They've been using Oranguru well. Um, Now we've got Cyclozar and Zorik as the fast frail guys. Except Cyclozar has regen and Zorik's immune to the fighting type attacks that are incoming. So both of them have their own forms of longevity. Um, I think that the mega switch up, it makes the team way more powerful and way harder to remove their biggest threats. So I just I think this team has been doing better than I thought, and now after the trade, it can do even better than I thought. So great shit. Um, I would like to see. Oh shit! What does that say? All right, I paused there because I was already rambling a lot during this one, but I completely couldn't read the rest of my notes. And then once I decoded them, it turns out they kind of said nothing. So my bad. But the last 3 weeks here, we've got um, versus the fire team, versus my fairy team, and versus the 6-0 undefeated ground team. So pretty brutal back half, especially considering I'm not sure how well this team is going to fare against the immediate onslaught of damage that is the fire team. I feel like this one normally appreciates a turn or two to get online, and it appreciates the ability to position. And if fire takes that away effectively enough, I could see this definitely going to them. Um, my fairy team's proving to be just as formidable as these guys, so that's going to be a real tough battle. They might have a bit of an advantage against me, but it's hard to say. And then ground, I feel like, is just real tough to take down. They do have Arboliva, except ground has a lot of tools aside from just ground type moves. And even then, there's like, high horsepower stomping tantrum, counter terrain, even with Meow Stick, right? You could just put some psychic terrain down. So yeah, this team's got a rough one, but I do think that versus me or Fire, they'll probably be able to pick up at least one win, and so I predict them to be at 5-4, probably more than 70% of making the playoffs. It feels good. They've got good differential. I don't think many teams are going to pass them, but there is a possibility that they go 0-3 in the back 3 weeks just due to strength of schedule, and that'd be rough to see because it's a really cool and fun team. So hopefully they can get a win or two. This is me. Super. This is the other one that I guessed right on. I thought I'd be towards the top, but not there. And yeah, hell yeah, dude. So I've been bringing as many cool support sets as I thought would be happening. I brought set up Wigglytuff the 1 week and one with that, but I definitely downplayed the absolute atrocity that is my steel and poison counters, right? I only have Tinkaton. Otherwise, steel types rip through me, which is not just how I lost to steel, but that is also how I ended up losing the Dragon Fairy matchup, is that they had really strong pseudo legendaries firing off bandit iron heads, and despite my it not being stab, and despite me having stab into them super effective all the time, I just couldn't survive long enough to get any support tricks online, and so that does bring up another point aside from just my bad um, covering for my weaknesses, which is that I don't have immediate damage if a steel type goes into Mega DNC. Melmetal and Hattering um, and are kind of it aside from that, and they need a turn to come online. Grimmsnarl I've tried to bring offensively, and it was kind of shit. A lot of these guys can be good after a stat boost or two, except I need to set up. So I do think that this team has a really high floor in terms of just having a lot of really solid support pieces, and Melm and Mega DNC being able to do absurd amounts of damage. but I also appreciate the fact that I think there is a pretty low ceiling for this team. I don't think I'll be able to make it to finals even if I'm playing at my best, just because the roster might not allow for it. It ended up being a pretty limiting build, despite the fun that I've had with it over the course of the season. So, with that said, I'm going up against the 4-2 fighting team, the 4-2 normal team, and the 2-4 ice team. I do expect I could probably get 2 wins. It might just be one, but I think I'm feeling pretty good about my chances to go 6-3 here. I think it's possible 10% chance I don't make playoffs, but it's looking good. But I don't expect myself to go very far in playoffs. So that's me. For one of the biggest teams to prove me wrong, I had them second to last, and now they are in fourth, and that is due to, and we're going to see this with the next team as well, insane piloting. I still kind of don't like this roster. In fact, I still don't really like this roster, but it's been played perfectly, and we can see that. It's the team name, Potemkin Busters, Pub. So we can see this, and the guy had a forfeit loss too. So could hypothetically have been 5-1 right now. The team's just being played so well, and we can see that Lucario and Metacham and Zamazenta are doing crazy work and are coming frequently to match that. Pangoro is a great sub in, and then Iron Hands is the goat. Uh, is coming a lot for fake out pressure, but all of these other support pieces are coming a lot, and none of them really aren't putting in work aside from maybe Crabominable. So it's like it feels like the team is bringing exactly what it needs every week, and this is kind of the bias of, oh, the team's doing well, so it's a better team, if that makes sense. I feel like that's a bit of a bias, right? Like other teams have pretty even usage in their support pieces as well, and I said that it was the wrong usage, but um, that does kind of make sense, right? Like if something isn't working, then the team is doing worse, or if the team's doing worse, then something isn't working. It's a two-way kind of street. They're tied together, and the fact that this team is doing so well with this spread means that the right pieces are coming. It's being piloted really, really well. And I think it's already gotten a matchup that I would have considered um, to be not in its favor, one or two of those. So clearly the coach is up for over performances. I think that there's a real threat here to, you know, go to finals just based off of piloting the team alone and how much better Lucario is than I've been giving it credit for. Right. I said earlier in PRs that Lucario was kind of uh, gonna kind of have to carry the special attack for this team, and it has been doing that. So shout out. It doesn't have to bring special attack every week, but it can absolutely be the sole bearer of that burden. So good shit, King. Um, Defense is still really rough, but it's being played well enough with enough fake out pressure and the right support pieces to allow it to still do well. So you love to see it. And this team also jumped up 9 spots, third to last, all the way up to third to top. And this is the Dragon type team. So I said in PRs, this is the team that asks the question, can you take down 6 bulky and strong Dragon types? And if you can't, you lose. And if you can, you win. But I have been proven wrong. We have gotten just as much Arctibac usage as we have Latios, right? 5 games each. Turdinator has been coming a lot and been putting in a lot of really good work. Um, this team is being played as if it has way more depth than I thought it did, and I mean to great success. And then on top of that, I did mention that these guys who are coming a lot, um, I was treating them like they didn't have an absurd amount of uh, flux with what set they're running. They're all good enough Pokemon that you can run pretty much whatever the hell you want on them, and it will be at least mildly effective. And this is just they're bringing the right things every week. This team is doing so well because Pengu is prepping and playing out of their damn mind. So I still don't really like this roster all that much, but it is just so strong, and these support pieces are doing so well that it doesn't even matter, right? Um, Fuck me, go crazy, man. Really nicely done. And I'm realizing I forgot to do the back third schedule for fighting. So they're going up against me, 4-2 fairy team, and then they're going up against the 6-0 ground type team, and then they're going up against the 3-3 psychic team. Probably the absolute worst last 3 weeks out of any team we've seen. Two matchups that are not favored based on type in fairy and psychic, and then going up against the undisputed #1 team right now. So that said, I do think that this team is good enough and is being piloted well enough that they'll pick up a win against me or Psychic. And the diff is so high right now that at a 5-4 team, I think they're very very likely to make it in. So I think we're seeing this team in playoffs. For Dragon, they are going up against the 4-2 Dark type team, the 3-3 Grass type team, and the 3-3 Fire type team. And I do think this is uh, probably going to take down grass, probably going to take down fire, especially considering how much these two benefit from photosynthesis. The moves that Dark type has made, I think make the Dark team likely to win that matchup. So I'm putting them at probably 6-3, but I do think unless everything goes terribly in the last third here, they're making playoffs. So very nicely done. We've got VN. This is the old team. I had them at my #1 slot, and they're now #2, but they've also made some trades, and here we go. They've largely moved off of Sun, right? Aside from just downgrading from Ninetales to Vulpix, which is probably going to be played a lot less. We also see no more Protosynthesis Roaring Moon, and we see no more Chlorophyll Shift Tree. Oh, I forgot to mega this Sableye. What do we get in return? We get Meowscarada and we get Iron Jugulus. Do I think this is a good move? I really do. And I do think the flexibility of this Sun mode, I like the team more this way. I like flexible teams. But heading into playoffs, you generally want a stronger team than more than a more flexible one. And this team still maintains a lot of flexibility, but it does kind of get rid of this mode that is not as effective as just fucking gunning it. And so I think that's a great move to make once you've already established yourself as likely to go into playoffs, almost guaranteed to kind of gear towards a more playoff oriented team. So great move there, especially considering that a more sun oriented team benefits dragon type way more in week 7 with Raging Bolt and Gouging Fire than it does yourself with just Roaring Moon and I guess Shift Tree and Mega Houndoom too. But I feel like these two are so much more substantially Jesus Christ, substantial like beneficiaries of that sun. So really clever move. And what do you replace it with? Meowscarada, who's running like stab triple axle. So yeah, phenomenal play there. I think that makes it very likely that they'll win their week 7 matchup into Dragon, and then week 7 they're going up against the 1-5 bug type team, and then they still have some fire type power, and they're going into the 3-3 steel type team. So I think they're probably going 3-0 in the last 3 weeks to finish at 7-2. Shout out to this team for being great in the builder and great in practice. VN, phenomenal cooker. So keep it up, gang. I think this is one of the big favorites to win it all. So let's see it happen. And then this, I mentioned grass type being my biggest overrating as soon as I made the video, and this was easily my biggest underrating. I acted like this team didn't have absurd power on basically everybody that was coming to battle, and that's terrible. And the other big thing is Meowstick being a gravity user makes Earthquake kind of kill everything and Earth Power kill everything. It's that's a big aspect I totally missed out on. And then yeah, let's look at what this team's been up to. This is to war toe. So Camerupt has been coming sometimes as well to very reasonable success. We've got 3 Mons at 15 plus kills. So if you were to treat these like first and second team all SBF rosters, um, a quarter of those rosters would come from this team. 30% of the top team or top 10 comes from this team. Disgusting. What is the rest of the team doing? Um, Landorus is, putting up a really respectable KD. Sandy Shocks is putting up a really respectable KD. And having a KD of about even when you have 3 effective all stars on the team is really impressive. They're still putting in really good work despite 3 kill hogs being here. Camerupt is coming in as a great flex option. Clodsire isn't really doing much. That's kind of to be expected. It's going to die from its own teammates' earthquakes, but damn, gang, plus 30 KD. This is disgusting. Have only dropped 2 games, not even matches, not a single match dropped. Have only dropped 2 games in the whole season. So I do expect this to go 9-0, not just from confirmation bias, but also I think they're going to take down water. I think they're going to give fighting and normal really tough fights. I think they'd be more likely to drop to fighting than anybody, but they are locked for playoffs. And man, I struggle to see anybody in the back 3 weeks beating this and denying them the beautiful 9-0. So I think we'll probably see this in finals. It's going to take an absolute masterclass to beat this team. And without further glaze, congrats to Cavern for this performance so far this season. So, with that said, a lot of my predictions were wildly wrong. Apologies to everybody. There were 66 index differences, which means that I am slightly worse than putting together a random rating and also rating everything directly in the middle. So, my apologies for the inaccuracies, and I'm sure that this video is going to be shit inaccurate as well. So, yeah,